Everybody knows that the hardest questions on the SAT reading section are those pesky passage-based questions. These are the questions where you get given a whole paragraph of text and you have to answer complex questions based off of it. And nobody knows how to either read over the text or answer literally any question correctly because they're so unbelievably difficult. So in this video, I'm going to explain 3 strategies for understanding passages better and also an extremely powerful way to make sure you're always choosing the best answer choice possible. I know what you're thinking, doesn't he already have a reading passage video? Yes, I do, but this one is going to be even better because there's going to be even more information and the tips are even better than the ones discussed in that video. And if that was enough, these tips are all plug and play. As long as you understand these, your score will automatically improve, even if you don't practice it in practice problems, though you should. First is visualization. Whenever you're reading over an SAT reading passage question, you have to be picturing what is happening in your mind. If you're just putting a bunch of words in your brain, none of it is going to stick and you're going to completely forget. It's like how everybody can imagine Skibidi Toilet. We can all think of it in our mind, of that head in that toilet and all the glory that it brings upon our country. Nobody, on the other hand, can imagine complex foreign policy issues because there's so much going on and there's no easy way to just visualize it. How do you do this? Basically, whenever you're reading a passage, you want to be pretending like you're reading a super interesting fantasy novel where you have to picture every single detail. You don't want to miss who died on page 93 of the book. You want to make sure that every single detail in every single character's life is fully ingrained in your brain so you can fully enjoy the story. And that's the exact same thing with the passages. Let's try this one. Skibidi episodes often reuse the same few symbols over and over. Sirens, camera heads, and a drain portal that characters jump through. Fans claim these repeats aren't lazy, they make the story feel like one big world with rules. When a later clip brings back a sound or object from an earlier one, watchers feel like a setup finally paid off. Because of this, some viewers say the series looks random on the surface, but it actually behaves like a continuing story. Text 2. Patel's study looked at short web series with simple plots and short scenes. The data suggests that audiences forgive thin characters if the series sticks to its own rules from episode to episode. The same viewers also keep watching when older hints get paid off in specific moments like a callback line or repeated sound cue. Patel sums it up this way: if the show honors its world rules and rewards attention, fans stay loyal. Hopefully while you're reading that, you were actually imagining the Skibidi episode and the different world rules and the different plots and short scenes. Even if there wasn't a direct thing you could picture in your mind, hopefully you really think about in a general sense what each of this stuff was saying. The hard thing about this method is that I can't force you to do it. It's purely mental, so anybody can choose either to do it or not to do it. We just can't see it happening. So it's all up to you to make sure you actually follow through with this. And you better, because everything else in this guide is going to make a lot more sense and be a lot easier if you're visualizing what you're reading as you're doing it. Give a shot on the passage from this question. We'll actually answer this question later on in the video, but first just visualize what is being said. My next powerful method is highlighting. Everybody loves highlighting SAT reading passages, but I have a very specific way of doing it that's a little bit different from what you might expect. Basically, I like highlighting details of the passage that make a full sentence, but I only highlight the bare minimum to complete the sentence. So watch this. The studio changed its thumbnails for the Skibidi series from messy collages to simple frames. Average watch time went up. The number of comments saying lore drop or guessing about hidden clues went down. I know it looks like I highlighted a crazy amount in those first few sentences, but the goal of this was basically making a complete sentence out of everything that was said while only using the bare minimum information. I did not need to know that it was the weeks after the change. I also did not know that it was across multiple uploads. I just need to know this basic stuff that's being said. And sure, it was a lot in that first sentence, but the other ones, it was a lot less. We lost some loud theorists, but picked up quiet finishers. If the producer statement is accurate, blank. What is the goal of this? Essentially, you want to make it simpler to picture it in your mind by taking out the unnecessary information. It's a lot more clear to read what's being said now because I deleted the unnecessary information. And therefore, when I come back to this passage later, if I need to re-reference it, I can see this pretty easily. Keep in mind, this is going to be actual highlighting on the SAT, not this underlining thing that I did here. Here's my highlighting for this one. Hopefully it makes sense why I chose to do this. Finally is note-taking. It can be really helpful to write a few key notes while you're reading a passage. I would not suggest to do this alongside highlighting because it just takes so much time to do, but if you want a very, very powerful way of understanding what is being said, just take a piece of paper and write down notes about the passage while you're reading it. A Skibidi Attention Lab video tries to explain why certain edits hold viewers. The host shows retention graphs comparing versions with and without the siren plus shaky POV combo, arguing the combo feels live and keeps people watching. I would show this by saying with and without. And then I put an arrow to people watch. I know that's super basic, but that's really all I need to very clearly visualize in my mind this combination and what it's trying to do. He also says viewers actively look for callbacks, but he admits repeats aren't magic. When a callback appears without a payoff, chat calls it filler, and average view duration drops. He closes, it's not chaos, it's rules plus rewards. So I would say CBs for callbacks need POs for payoffs. Believe it or not, just in these two small phrases up here, I've literally embodied everything said in the passage. Kind of crazy when you think about it, but these passages do not really say that much, I can't be honest with you. An op-ed begins with a personal note. The writer wants opposed turning curb parking into bus lanes. I can write something down for that. WR for writer and op for opposed buses. She explains that she valued parking near small shops and feared longer trips. Midway through, she presents data showing that bus lanes cut travel times for service workers and improve reliability during early and late shifts. I would honestly just say, bus, good. I know there's a lot more detail said in the actual passage, but this honestly is enough to embody everything that you need to know. In the conclusion, she writes that the lanes are a fairness upgrade disguised as paint. The first section sets up the change in review and the body shows why it changed. I think this is honestly fine. I mean, the writer, she opposed at the beginning, and now she thinks it's good because there's evidence to support that. The most important part of these passages, though, is making a prediction. Everybody skips this step, but it's honestly going to be the most important thing for getting these questions right. When you read through the passage, you want to predict what the answer is going to be before you even look at the choices. The reason why you do this is because, one, it makes sure you actually understood what was being said. If you can make a prediction, it shows you understand the passage well enough. And if you can make a prediction, it shows you probably need to go back and look at the passage again because you do not understand it. Two, it prevents you from getting distracted by bad choices. The SAT is going to try to throw choices at you that kind of sound okay, but are not really supported by the passage. An easy way to just prime your brain to not look at these choices in the first place is by making a prediction and just going with whatever choice aligns with the prediction. And at this point, you need to use the process of elimination. There are two reasons why a choice should be eliminated. One is if it is not directly supported by stuff in the passage. You got to be very, very strict about this. If it is not supported, it is not going to be right, and you'll see why in a second. Two is leaving out important details. If every single choice is directly supported by the passage, or at least two of them are, you go for the one that has the most important details and does not leave out anything key. 90% of the time, one is going to be enough to get you to the right answer, but if you have to go for two as well, it's okay. Back to problem one. Viewers kept watching mainly because each episode avoids any reference to earlier clips, suggesting that novelty without links is the true driver of engagement rather than consistency or callbacks across series. I don't think that's going to be right because we're talking about people actually doing callbacks to past clips. And that actually says that's one of the key things that helps. You just have to do it right, essentially. So I'll probably eliminate that because that's directly not supported. The recurring symbols in text 1 likely help the series retain fans because they signal stable world rules. And when episodes later reward earlier hints, audiences feel the story is coherent even if the characters themselves are thin. That sounds pretty good, pretty directly supported. Text 1's reliance on repeat symbols probably harms viewer interest over time. Okay, that, first of all, is not supported. That part is clearly not said in the passage, and it maybe could be implied, but like not at all said. So C is just definitely going to be wrong. Like, it doesn't even matter if the rest is amazing. Just because that one part is bad, it's going to be bad. The popularity of text 1 is probably unrelated to either rules or payoffs. Okay, again, not supported at all. They don't provide any kind of other reason why it could be good. And if it is based off video length or thumbnail style, it does not matter because it's not said in the passage. B is going to be right for this one. Make sure to give 2 a quick read before you watch the rest of this, because I'm not going to read it for you. By pairing the beads with a nearby hearth remains to show repeated activity at certain stops, which explains why items are scattered at intervals. That sounds pretty good. By comparing copper to gold trading, including the gold was more profitable. Okay, not said at all. Gold was not more profitable. Okay, it probably was, but it was not said in the passage. Here's the thing, you really do not want to be making assumptions with this. Take this as an example. Say I said the sentence, Jimmy spent 14 hours a day watching brain rot on his phone, and then he played Fortnite for another 5 hours. Let me ask you, how old do you think Jimmy is? If you said that you thought Jimmy was a teenager, you were wrong. Jimmy is actually a 90-year-old man. And here's the thing, I never said that Jimmy was a young guy in the first thing. You just assumed that he had to be a young guy because he watches brain rot. But really, it's for all ages. It's a similar thing with these passage questions. Sure, stuff may sound like it probably is going to be true, but if it's not supported, you just cannot go for it unless it's a very, very logical thing to assume. Insisting that B's were only decorative? Okay, no. By rejecting all alternative explanations, stating that any distribution pattern is accidental loss? Okay, not again. Now onto the skibbity one. The simpler thumbnails pulled in viewers who are more likely to watch the whole video rather than pause to speculate, so the common volume path theories dropped even as overall viewing completion increased. You see, it's not directly suggested in the passage, but they say we lost some loud theorists but picked up quiet finishers. So that kind of makes it seem like it's going to be, supporting that. It's a very logical inference that if that's the case, like they say if it's accurate, then this must be true. But if we look at the B and C and D, these are directly not supported at all. The same viewers change how they engage. Okay, that's not what's said at all because they say we lost some loud theorists but picked up quiet finishers. So it's not like we just had the same viewers again. Theory comments always come from people who quit early. Okay, not even almost suggested. The producer dislikes theorizing and remove comments. Okay, nothing to suggest that either. Again, A just has to be right because it's the only one that has a logical inference. Even though that isn't directly said, it makes sense that this would have to be the case. Onto this wetland one. Wetland restoration usually harms birds. The manager should stop projects that change plant communities because these efforts rarely help any wildlife or visitors in the long term. Here's the thing, it might actually be true that it usually harms birds, but it just does not say that. It just says that in this one instance it harms birds. So you see, if I was to make that assumption, it would just be like the guy watching the brain rot. It would just be assumption that maybe it could make sense, but it's not going to be true for this thing, at least not necessarily. A project can improve the overall ecosystem while even a favorite species does worse, showing that broader ecological health and single species targets can conflict and must be considered together. That seems pretty strong. Increasing plant diversity inevitably reduces nesting for all birds. Does not say anything about all birds, just a specific one, so no. The managers prioritize ecosystem metrics over the bird by design and frame the decline as an acceptable trade-off to justify the project's goals, indicating the restoration success is mainly about maximizing profit. You see, this was all sounding pretty good, but they say maximizing profit. It does not say anything about making more money in this passage. So even though this whole thing seems amazing, just because they use that one incorrect thing, you gotta throw out the entire thing and say D is not right. B is going to be right for this one. Finally, onto these notes questions. Viewer engagement mainly comes from consistent cues that create a live feeling from callbacks that actually pay off earlier hints. When repeats don't deliver a payoff, attention fails even if the symbol is familiar. That's correct, and I'll also leave you guys to look at why B, C, and D would have to all be incorrect. There's at least one part of each one that makes it not going to be directly supported. And finally, this buzzing one, I'll skip a few steps. C and D definitely are not right. So it just comes down to A and B. A is undercut her own conclusion by casting doubt on the reliability of the data that follows, signaling that a reader should trust personal preferences about parking over evidence. And B is model and evidence-driven change in stance, moving from familiar parking-friendly position to a new view justified by travel time data, so readers can see the pivoted results from evidence rather than loyalty to parking or shop access. Both of these maybe could be correct, but the one that's really directly supported is this one talking about the data and all these evidence-driven changes in stance. They don't say anywhere that she was trying to undercut her own conclusion or that the reader should trust personal preferences about parking over evidence. That's probably the exact opposite of what is being said. But it's very logical to say that the evidence and all these other things shows that you should be trusting these buses over just regular parking and shop access. So it's a little bit harder because it wasn't as directly shown, but you can probably still see it now that I explained it here. If you're struggling, consider checking out my new school community, Gamify SAT Plus. In this community, you not only get some of my best resources I've made so far, but also my SAT playbook where I literally show the best strategy to be approaching every single problem in the reading section of the SAT and some of the best resources I have on the math stuff. You also get one-on-one tutoring with me and a personalized SAT prep plan for each of your days before the following test. If you at all want to improve your score right now, check out Gamify SAT Plus in the description below. I'll see you guys in there.